Good morning. We are here for the Finance Committee meeting of Tuesday, May 6th. It's 9:31. Let's start with introductions to my far left. Ms. Norris.
Brittany Norris for the administration.
Colleen Hampsey, Council Research.
Mary Stefopoulos, Office of General Counsel.
Philip Peterson, Council Auditor's Office.
Kim Taylor, Council Auditor.
Good morning. Raul Arias, District 11.
Will Lane in District 3.
Terrence Freeman at large, Group 1.
Ron Salem, Group 2 at large.
Nick Howland at large, Group 3.
Good morning. Rory Diamond, District 13, The Beaches.
Randy White, District 12, just visiting.
I have no public comment cards. Okay, I do have public comment cards. Okay, I have two. Let's put 2 minutes. Thank you. Chris Peterson.
Good morning, sir. I'm here to speak on item number 25. Would you like me to do that now or wait until the item is up?
Why don't you do it now?
Great. My name is Chris Peterson. I am Senior Vice President of Government Affairs for Fortify Financial. We are PACE providers. And after an industry call last night, the PACE industry is asking respectfully to slow this item down. There is only one provider listed here, and this is going to lack one of the most important consumer protections, which is competition. In the financial services industry, and really any industry, consumer choice is extremely important. And if you've only got one provider, that consumer choice is significantly limited. Consumer choice helps to keep rates lower, helps to keep service levels higher. Now, the PACE industry has undergone a significant enhancement last year through SB 770, and we're very excited at the idea that Jacksonville wants to move forward. But we want to do this in the right way. We want to put our best foot forward as an industry, and I think only having one provider really limits that. So we would respectfully ask you to table this item and maybe come back to it and have some more discussions about why it's important to have all providers in.
This item is on second reading today, so it will be in committee in 2 weeks, and I see the introducer is Councilmember Arias, so I assume he'll take your comments and make a decision.
Yes, sir, absolutely. We'll be in touch, sir. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay. Lynn Drysdale.
Chairman Salem and council members, Lynn Drysdale with Jacksonville Area Legal Aid. I'm here also to speak on item number 25. I would agree with Mr. Peterson that the matter should be tabled, but in our opinion, it should be permanently tabled as to residential PACE liens. The reason is because these are touted in the legislation, and I have contacted Councilman Arias relating to this. It's supposed to be a cost-effective loan program. It's neither cost-effective nor is it a loan program. It's not cost-effective because Fortify's interest rates are anywhere from 11 to 12%, and this is on a fully secured super lien that has priority over a mortgage and can lead to a tax deed sale. It's set up not to be a loan program so that the lenders can strip most of the consumer protections relating to disclosure and term limitations, which are required in every other loan, car loan, mortgage loan, signature loan, any other type of loan. So we believe that Jacksonville should stick with its resolution of 2023 and prohibit residential PACE lending in the city and county. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Drysdale. Okay. I have no other public comments. Mr. Freeman? No, Dustin Freeman. I'm sorry. Would you like to give your presentation on single source contracts?
Yes, sir. Dustin Freeman, Chief of Procurement. I don't think that we were able to get it up on the screens today, but this report is in front of you for your review. Mr. Chair, committee members, the single source purchases for over $50,000 for Q2 of FY25 sit in front of you. This includes the using agency's justification for each of the backup. This quarter, there was a total of 17 single source purchase orders totaling a little over $2.5 million and one purchase order agreement totaling a little over $1.3 million. Of the 18 single sources, 13 are for follow-up goods and services, such as replacement parts, out-of-warranty related and required maintenance services for products and equipment previously purchased by the city. There are 5 which I would consider unique. Those are listed in front of you. Item 6, sports and entertainment, for $145,000. Item 11, sports and entertainment, for $100,000. Item 12, Homeland Security within JSO, $374,499. Item 13, recreation and community programming, a little over $58,000, and then lastly, the item 15, social services for $60,000. If there's no further questions, this will conclude my report. Again, if you have questions on any technical requirements related to the single source, I'd have to defer to the using agency.
I see no one in the queue. Thank you, Mr. Freeman.
Thanks, sir.
Okay. And let me turn to Council Auditor Kim Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to update the committee that we have worked with CRI for the external audit for the financials for the years 25 ended, 26, and 27. We have all of those documents ready. In fact, just sent some of that to Ms. Stefopoulos to have all of that filed. Wanted to touch base with the committee. We can file it as from the Finance Committee if everyone is agreeable with that. If there are any issues, please just let me know. But we do have that ready to go.
Is it okay for everyone that the Finance Committee file the bill? Okay, fine. And let me mention Ms. Pittman has joined us as well. Okay, anything else? Okay, let's start. Let me go through the information. Item number 1, 627 is deferred. Item number 2, 966 is deferred. Item number 3, 993 is deferred. Item number 4, 2025-11 is deferred. Item number 5, 25-138 is deferred. Item number 6, 183 is deferred by me. Item number 7, 188 is deferred. Item number 8 will be moved. Item number 9 will be moved. Item number 10 will be amended move. Item number 11 is an amended move. Item number 12 will be moved. Item number 13, 2025-256 will be amended move. Item number 14, 2025-259 will be amended move. Item number 15, 25-261 will be an amended move. And item number 28, 291, I will defer today. So let me go back to the beginning. Any questions? Comments? Okay. Let's begin with item number 1, 2024-627 is deferred. Item number 2, 24-966 is deferred. Item number 3, 24-993 is deferred. Item number 4, 25-11 is deferred. Item number 5, 25-138 is deferred. Councilmember Diamond, did you want to make any comment on that at all? Okay. Okay. Item number 6, 25-183 is deferred. Item number 7, 25-188 is deferred. Item number 8, 25-217. Move it. I have a motion and a second on the bill. I have no one in the queue. Please open the ballot, record the vote.
Eight yeas, 0 nays.
By your vote, you have approved 25-217. Item number 9, 25. I'm sorry. Oh, Councilmember Diamond, pardon me.
No, all good. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to make note that the Chartrain Family Fund is helping our first responders with their mental health challenges. This family has given literally hundreds of millions of dollars in Jacksonville, and they take incredible heat sometimes, and it is totally misplaced. I just want to underline for all these folks who attack them constantly, you know, when you dial 911 and somebody gets traumatized because a police officer or firefighter comes to rescue someone and their family and they are hurting, this is the Chartrain family helping them out. Remember that.
Ms. Pittman, did you want to comment? Okay. Item number 9, 25-251, Ms. Pittman.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to sustain from 2025 to 0251 because we have a partnership. The Clara White Mission has a partnership with youth coming to our farm. So I just wanted, paperwork has already been submitted. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone move the bill? Move it second. Okay, I have a motion and a second on the bill. Mr. Lanin.
Thank you, Chair. Just to the Chair and the committee, I want to point out I co-sponsored this, and this is pretty much doing the same thing, which I think is a great practice on what we just passed with the public service grant legislation, to where now you cannot apply and get a grant for more than one category. So I think it's a great bill, and happy to support this one.
Thank you. Mr. Diamond.
I'd like to, as a co-sponsor, please. Thank you.
Okay. No one else in the queue, please open the ballot, record the vote.
Seven yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstention.
By your vote, you've approved 25-251. Item number 10, 25-252. I have a motion and a second on the amendment. Mr. Peterson, can you explain the amendment?
Yes, sir. Through the Chair of the committee, the amendment just attaches a revised Exhibit 1, which is the BT, to adjust the appropriation amounts based on the actuals in the accounts that they're pulling the dollars from. Does not change the total appropriation.
All those in favor of the amendment, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Amendment passes. Have a motion and a second on the bill as amended. No one in the queue. Open the ballot, record the vote.
Seven yeas, 0 nays.
By your vote, you've approved 25-252. Item number 11, 25-253. Ms. Pittman, just a second.
Mr. Chairman, again, I'm abstaining from this because of the partnerships that we have with kids coming to our program, and the paperwork has already been submitted for the Clara White Mission. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a motion on the amendment? I have a motion and a second on the amendment. Mr. Peterson?
Yes, sir. Through the Chair to the committee, the amendment increases the appropriation to include the in-kind match of the $462,000, so it'll take the total appropriation to $947,000 for the legislation. Reflect the correct Schedule M references. This is the KHA budget, and each time we add dollars to their budget, we update their schedule. There's various scriveners that need to be corrected, and then also attaching a revised Exhibit 2 to update the latest Schedule M to include this recent appropriation from 2025-264.
All those in favor of the amendment, please indicate by saying aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Amendment passes. I have a motion and a second on the bill as amended. Please open the ballot, record the vote.
Seven yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstention.
By your vote, you've approved 25-253. Turning to page 7, item number 12, 25-254. I have a motion and a second on the bill. Please open the ballot, record the vote.
Eight yeas, 0 nays.
By your vote, you've approved 25-254. Item number 13, 25-256. Motion is second on the Neighborhoods Amendment. Mr. Peterson?
Through the Chair to the committee, the Neighborhoods Amendment reflects that Public Works will oversee and monitor the redevelopment agreement with WJCT, correct various scriveners, and then Neighborhoods added yesterday attaching a revised on file that would authorize within the lease agreement with WJCT the right for WJCT to sublet any part of the premises with the city's approved consent.
Mr. Diamond on the amendment? Oh, okay. Please go ahead.
I'd like to move to remove the $30,000 annual distribution to WJCT being extended through 2037.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to remove the $30,000 contribution. Discussion. Mr. Howland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm hoping someone from DIA, or if Lori's here, or Nina, could come up and explain exactly the lease, because let me talk about what I think the lease is. It was a 99-year lease passed about, I want to say 50 years ago for $1 a year for that property for WJCT. And it doesn't have too many restrictions, so they're able to sublet in their building. They're able to charge for parking and all sorts of things. So it's really the city transferring significant value over to WJCT. So now, as and as part of that, for several years, there's been $30,000 annual disbursements to them because they used to run the Jazz Fest. Now we're doing it even though they don't run the Jazz Fest, and we're going to continue doing it so they can develop a promotional video on behalf of the city. Do I have all that right? And could you please explain what is this amendment does in addition, because I see it extends 10 years. I thought it went out to like 2066, but now I'm seeing 2037. So please clarify all that if you wouldn't mind. Thank you.
Through the chair to Councilman Howland, you've summarized the lease very well. If I could add some color to it, though. The city acquired the property through a HUD grant that goes back to 1972. We took $200,000 to do that. When we took that money, we recorded a restrictive covenant that lasts in perpetuity that gives the Department of Housing and Urban Development say over when and how we could ever sell the property. In 1977, the state of Florida provided $2.25 million grant to the parent company of WJCT to actually build the building. So the city has no money in the building or the property construction-wise. As a reaction to that, in 1977, not only did the city enter into a 99-year lease agreement, again for the aforementioned $1 a year, we dedicated the property so that the state could build that building. When we did that and when we executed the lease, we put a provision in the lease that stands today that says if we wanted to release the building or otherwise end the agreement with WJCT, we got to go not only to HUD, we have to go to the state because they've got approval rights over it. So that lasts until 2076. The extension that we're requesting from 2027 to 2037, you're right, it continues for 10 years, a $30,000 commitment that we provided to WJCT. If you go back to the historical documents, best that I can read, and Mr. Councilman Boland was here, he could probably add some even more detail to it. When we took over Jazz Fest, the ability to program and generate revenue from it, we also took over the liquor license, so we took over some value. In 2027, we're going to go another 10 years. As part of the negotiation, the current negotiation with WJCT, to allow us to amend the lease agreement, to allow us to disrupt their property for a significant amount of time, to build the fire station, to build the road, and do these other things, they requested that extension. We said, okay, if we're going to extend that, we need another consideration. We need something back. So that something back is the production and audio and video of what we just talked about. So that's how we got here. You sort of have to wrap up that $30,000 a year in sort of this entire ask we have of them to disrupt their property and disrupt their lease and build our road and build our fire station that resulted from the Iguana deal, from our deal with AR Polar. So I know that's a lot of words. I hope I answered your question.
You did. If you don't mind, Mr. Chair, if I can continue. Given all that, given we'd have to go to the state and the feds for any real change to that lease, do you think there's an appetite for WJCT to move off the river somewhere and we could work with them to do it? And the reason I'm asking is because we're building, Iguana Investments is building a big Four Seasons there with a marina. We're spending over $190 million in riverfront parks that extend all the way to Shipyards West. We're redeveloping with $775 million the stadium there. A bunch of incentives for Rise right there. That area is developing, and yet we lease a big chunk of it right adjacent for $1 a year. I think there could be more value to the city, better use to the city in that property in another way. Do you think there's an appetite for them to move?
Through the chair, I can't answer that, but what I can do is add sort of a date when this conversation might be really good to have, and that date is coincidentally 2037, and let me tell you why. In 2019, WJCT and the state of Florida executed their agreement to actually lease the building. That expires in 2039. So if there was a desire to move them, I would imagine that would be coincidental with them being done with the first and only extension under their lease with the state of Florida.
Okay. Thank you for your indulgence, Mr. Chair. I know we're speaking on the amendment, but I think this amendment gets to the whole kind of, gist of the bill. I believe Mr. Diamond's amendment to the amendment was just to strike the 30K annual disbursements. It seems to me that that's a fair amendment to the amendment because that's something that we can, if we're giving money to a nonprofit, and that's what WJCT is, we could be doing that as part of the budget process instead of solidify it for a number of years more in a lease agreement. So I would support that. I'm not sure if my colleagues would, but I also am mindful that I wouldn't like to do anything to this lease that hampers our ability as a city to work with WJCT to figure out how to move them off the river. No, I don't think that broadcast facility needs to be on the river subsidized by the city when it could be somewhere else potentially subsidized by the city. That itself is arguable. Those are my thoughts, and I'm done. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I've got 3 other people on the queue. I definitely want to hear your perspective, but let me see if there are any other issues that we can flush out before you do. Councilmember Arias.
Thank you, Chair. Guy, through the chair. So, Mr. Perola, are you saying that right now the Marine Fire Station that's being built or that we're going to build, in order to get that project completed, we had to actually dig up some concrete in their parking lot of WJCT? Is that what it is? Is that what I'm understanding?
Through the chair to Councilman Arias. Not the fire station itself, but Festival Park Avenue, the ability to get there, the ability to run utilities, and also the ability to honor our commitment to WJCT's neighbor, AR Polar, that we made through a separate redevelopment agreement to extend utilities and expand utilities for future redevelopment.
Sure.
We've committed to do all that, and that all requires us digging up the parking lot.
Okay, so I guess my question is, can they tell us, no, we can't do that because they currently own the ground lease, right?
Through the chair, after discussion with the Office of the General Counsel, they could frustrate that process, yes.
Okay. So to my point, colleagues, it's very simple. As a business owner, if anybody's going to impede in my business, I want something back in return. All right. If you're gonna have my business affected for multiple years, not just for a couple months, but for multiple years, we need to figure out a way to compensate them. It's only fair. I agree with you. Seeing how we can yes, and there is a $1 lease, which is another point which I've stated many times in the past. These $1 lease, they need us finished, but ultimately we are committed to WJCT till 2067, whatever the case is. That conversation needs to be held moving forward, so we don't continue giving $1 leases, let alone a 100-year lease as well too. But the point of the matter is that this business needs this funding to mitigate the work that we're going to do in their property. And yes, they currently have the lease; they have the right. So even if they want to stop the construction of the utilities, we're going to be put in a worse position because we have a commitment now to have the fire station and everything else built. So I will fully support this only because of the position we're in, but we're in this position mainly because of the commitment that we made over 50 years ago. We need to be smarter moving forward about how we make these commitments. It's $30,000 a year for 10 years, $300,000. We could find that money during the budget process, or we could do it now. But ultimately, whichever route we go, I think we need to be able to give it to them because that's just how it is. That's just how business is. And if you guys own businesses, you understand you are at a negotiation table, and that's what I would do if I owned that building or if I was leasing that building. You're going to impede in my business. I want something in return. And so one more thing to point out is that this lease is not an extension of the lease. It's just an extension of the $30,000 a year. So the lease is still going to be until 2067 or whatever year it is. It's just extending the $30,000 a year. Now, one thing I would like to add to this would be, being that this is a DIA property or lease, whatever the case is, I know that the $30,000 and the video production work that you're talking about, my only worry is that it will only be used for DIA boundary items. All right, we have more projects happening downtown that are outside of the DIA scope. So if we were to do this kind of arrangement, I would like for all of downtown to be able to benefit from this, such as the east side. We're about to invest a lot of money into the east side, and I would love to see how we can use some of those video work and promotional aspects to help the small businesses in the east side as well too, not just DIA boundary items. So either way, I'm open to more conversations, but I think that we put ourselves in this position 50 years ago. we have no choice right now. So I'll listen to more. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Arias. Councilmember Lanin.
Thank you, Chair.
And let me say, if it's easier for either one of you to answer the questions, please come forward.
Thank you, Chair. To the committee, so I did discuss this with Ms. Boyer at length. I had a lot of questions on this, a lot of the questions that have been brought up here, because this is pretty complicated. But anyways, ultimately, again, she talked me through the state requirements. The $30,000 a year is essentially going to be used on some sort of city production. And then also, like, if there are plans to move it at some point, it's not going to happen in the next couple of years. And I don't want to perhaps the best option here is if we do potentially defer it. I don't know what the implications are deferring, but I'd encourage everyone to have an in-depth conversation with Ms. Boyer about this, because just like the jail, there's a long history on why it ended up where it is on the riverbank there. So I'd support the neighborhood amendment. My concern is if we vote down the $30,000, maybe that's a question they can answer for us. I don't know if that triggers us going back to negotiate this or what really the implications are on that, since the lease was ready for us to approve.
And can someone address that? Would the whole lease have to be renegotiated if we rejected the $30,000? I'm suggesting if.
I understand. My name is David McGowan. I'm the Chief Executive of WJCT, and thank you very much for the opportunity to address this matter with you. First, let me just state that WJCT has enjoyed a long partnership with the city, and we're very appreciative of the support of all aspects of city government, including city council, in that relationship. And I just want to state, I think for the record, that the value that WJCT provides in its current location is substantial to the city. We are host to more than 100 public events in that location currently, and we have undertaken a long, more than 3 years now, negotiation and discussion with many, many departments in the city in order to allow the Marine Fire Terminal to be constructed in the location where it is happening today. DIA, Public Works, Parks and Rec, all elements of the city have been involved in this. It has been complicated, and we agreed in good faith to allow the construction to begin in April due to a penalty that Public Works indicated that they were facing if that construction could not begin. So in answer to the question that was just raised about what would need to be renegotiated if the $30,000 were eliminated, I would say it's not the whole lease. The lease is the lease, but the three agreements which hang together, which allow construction to continue, would essentially need to go back to the drawing board and back to our board of trustees and so forth. So that has been it's been a long road to get here. We've enjoyed, again, I think, a constructive partnership with the city in many, many areas, and I hope that clarifies the situation.
Thank you. Councilmember Freeman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through the chair to my colleagues. Great conversation, great debate, great points brought up. Just wanted to see if I could find some type of common ground here. I do support the amendment. I had that same thought yesterday of what does the $30,000 go towards, and figured I'd wait here because I knew it would come up. So one of the questions that I wanted to ask is, through the chair to whoever can answer, is how did we land on the $30,000 a year through 2037? Because where I'm going with it is how long is construction projected to go out? Is construction projected out to that time frame? I'm just trying to see if there's a way to meet in the middle.
I can't get all the way to 2037, but the $30,000 payment began in 2002 at that lease amendment. At that time, WJCT returned some of the property that they were leasing back to the city. I believe it has to do with the Jazz Festival comment that Mr. Perola made. And so the city agreed to compensate them $30,000. That's been in the lease, and that runs through 2027. And so they just asked for an extension of 10 years in, I guess, compensation for the video production services, continuing that $30,000.
Right. And so I asked that question because there seemed to be somewhat of a connection between disruption of their business, construction, and us moving forward with, I just attached $30,000 to the whole conversation. You're saying that it would sunset in 2027. So to me, the $30,000 wouldn't necessarily be a number that would cause us to have to go back to the whole lease and renegotiate. There shouldn't be, from my understanding, any type of rub or heartburn with the $30,000 when it comes to the lease. Am I missing something on that?
The lease has to be modified in order to accommodate the construction of the fire terminal and the construction of Festival Park Avenue. As was just stated, the original payment of $30,000 a year for 25 years was made when there was a previous adjustment to the lease back in 2002. This is also an adjustment to the footprint of the lease.
Right.
So in addition to the disruption, and the $30,000 a year over 10 years, I mean, that was an accommodation
Right.
to the city to defer that payment over a long period of time. So that's why that was done.
All right, I guess I'm missing something here because I heard construction again. And I guess where I was trying to go with it is if construction is due to be done in 2028 or 29, why then would we continue to make payments beyond that? If there was a way to attach this, because it seems like that number is a subjective number, and I don't really like subjectivity. I really like for us to objectively land to why we agree to a number. Two, I agree with Councilmember Arias in the fact of if they're providing a video now, which was good faith, I get it. We ask of it, extend beyond it. And so let me add a caveat here too. I attend events at WJCT. They're amazing events. A lot of them are community service oriented. I listened to the roundup with Councilman Howland and Peluso on it. This is not a knock on the service that it provides and the value that it brings to our community. To me, this is really coming down to dollars and cents and trying to justify how, and it seems like we subjectively got to a number. It seems like the argument of maintaining it or extending it has been connected with construction. And so if that were the case, then I would say then wherever construction ends, then this type of payment should be modified or adjusted to accommodate when it would end. If that's truly what I'm hearing, disrupting of business. If it's still trying to honor an initial agreement, that's another argument to me. Am I making sense through the chair to Mr. Parola?
Through the chair, you're making a ton of sense. While the payments, your point is well taken. While the payments would begin in 2027 under this and extend through 2037, that would be outside of the horizon of construction. However, it just means we're paying in the future for a disruption today, and we negotiated that with WJCT because it seemed fair to everyone at that point. If the heartburn is how would this affect the general fund, then I would suggest shift the burden onto DIA's budget.
Thank you, Mr. Caparlo, and that's kind of where I was heading with it. I think that might be a better option to go through right now as we're discussing it. My last question, this one might be a little tough, and I wrote it down and then heard a lot of other conversations, so I think it's already answered. But you mentioned steps are going to the state and going to HUD, and if that were the case before this lease were to come to an end, and if those steps were taken, what posture would that put the city in?
Through the chair, that is a really good question. There's a little bit of ambiguity as to what happens to the building itself when the lease ends. And quite frankly, as I said before, I think the only real time to have that question and understand what happens is around 2037, because their agreement with the state, their first extension for sublease of the building ends in 2039. So the state made a statement in 2019 that they wanted WJCT to live in their building at least through 2039.
No, thank you for that answer. And you know, obviously times change as history moves forward. And I think if a conversation like this were brought to the state or the federal level now, probably wouldn't have the same type of negotiation. I also kind of chuckled because you just mentioned several years out, and I can only see myself on a walker as I'm listening to this conversation when it takes place. But I really am leaning into what Councilman Howland said, which is how can we get the best and highest value for that land, but for me personally, without disrupting the value that WJCT offers our community. And I think that's an itch that's worthy of trying to scratch at some point. I'm going to support the amendment because I think that it keeps the conversation going, and if that does bring us back to a conversation of helping me better understand the construction piece and why we're subjectively paying this number over an extended period of time, I'm willing to have that discussion. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to jump in because everyone else is on for a second. I tend to agree with Councilmember Arias in terms of passing it as it is due to the disruption and such. If it makes a difference to Councilmember Diamond, if the money came out of the DIA CRA versus the general fund, I'm fine with that if that makes a difference to him or to those that may support it. But either way, I think the services that we get out of WJCT in general, community meetings, everything else, and the disruption that they had is worth it to us. And at the end of the 10 years, we could take a look at it and see where we go from there. Okay, let me go to Councilmember Diamond for the second time.
Look, I appreciate this conversation, and everyone's being very reasonable, but what's not reasonable is having a nonprofit that's got a $1 a year lease. We're building a fire station next door, and they're extorting us for $30,000. That's what's happening here. I know most of the board of WJCT. They're not going to stop us from building a fire station, okay? They're not. And if they are such a good public entity over there, they would not stop us from building a fire station. We don't have to pay this $30,000. It's a ridiculous payment. I say we say no. If you want to do it through DIA, that's fine. It looks like I don't think I've got the votes here to sustain this anyways. But, I mean, the fact is they came to us with a pre-baked contract, and now we have to make the decision with a pre-baked contract. Come to the city council and be like, how do you feel about giving $30,000 of taxpayer money to WJCT for the alleged interruption in the parking lot, which most of the time is empty. It's filled with geese most of the time and a bunch of cats. All right. That's my 2 cents. Thanks.
Councilmember Howland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will support Councilman Diamond's amendment to the amendment, and part of the reason there is just because you've heard me say it on the dais a number of times. I don't like when various entities, DIA, others, are contributing money to nonprofits without our say necessarily. So I'm glad this has popped up. I'm glad we have a say in it. And you look through the single source here, and you see that's occurred a couple times. I'd rather us, as the ones elected to control the purse and make the decisions, be the ones who donate the city's treasure to appropriate nonprofits, rather than the entities within the city that have not been elected to control the purse. But that being said, my bigger question on this lease, and Guy, thank you. I've been to many of the events at WJCT, love the facility, getting booed all the time there builds character, so I enjoy it. But those events do not need to be on the river. So to me, the main factor is, does anything we vote here today on the amendment to the amendment, and on the bill as amended, first for Guy and then for Philip, does anything that we vote on here today restrict our ability in a year or two to negotiate with WJCT, the state, and the federal government to potentially move WJCT off the river to another wonderful property? There's apparently property just as high value in La Villa as there is on the riverfront, and maybe they could have a facility there that we could go, and they could have a wonderful broadcasting facility that hosts events. Is there anything that we might approve if we were to approve this next Tuesday night that would restrict that conversation from happening in a year or two?
Through the chair, no. And I feel confident that it's a hard no.
Philip and Mary, you feel the same way?
Through the chair to Councilmember Howland, there is nothing that would prevent the parties, if they mutually decided to get together to discuss an alternative location or any other matter pertaining to the documents as they are today, there's nothing that would prevent you all from, any of the parties from coming together.
Then what I appreciate most is that this has come before us, and that it's on our radar, and then we can potentially have this discussion in a few years. Because I think, like Mr. Freeman said, waiting until 2039, when we're about to activate the east side and the sports and entertainment district and the riverfront, is sub-ideal. But having this discussion probably in the next several years would be ideal. So, okay, thank you very much.
Councilmember Arias. I'm sorry, let me go to Ms. Pittman for the first time.
Thank you. I want to ask, I guess, I know we're talking about a lot of things, and I'm thinking about vision and future. How would this hurt you in any way, or because I know you also sublease to other nonprofits that may not be able to afford a site that you provide to them. Can you share a little bit on that as well?
Well, if any of you have had the opportunity to visit our premises over the last few weeks, I think you'll see the disruption pretty evident there. And that is a disruption that affects many aspects of our operations, including our ability to host public events there and our tenants who are other nonprofits in this community. So that is the disruption that we anticipated and that we spent, again, 3 years working with the city in order to come up with a set of agreements that we felt was fair to everybody. It was a long process, but I think, what you have before you kind of gets everybody there. But I mean, I can only describe it in that it's pretty visible and pretty evident if you visit us today.
So do you support the amendment to the amendment?
No, I do not support the amendment to the amendment. What I mean to say is simply that the $30,000 a year extension to that accommodates the lease modification, right, to our footprint, which is being made in order to accommodate the construction of the fire terminal and Festival Park Avenue, which needs. The reason that road is constructed, just for clarity, I'm not sure everyone is aware of this, the reason that road is being constructed and the whole grounds are being disturbed is because of the need for a left-hand turn to downtown. That is a requirement that JFRD has in order to be able to make that fire terminal work. And so we understand that. We are trying to, again, work with all departments of the city, including JFRD, in order to make the whole thing work for everyone.
But that's a no, right? Thank you.
Okay, I've got Councilmember Arias for, I think, the second time, and then we're going to take a vote on the amendment. To the amendment.
Thank you, Chair. So my point to this will be very simple. If you look at the single source contracts that we just awarded, there's 17 of them, and 3 which stand out to me the most are a library ancestry subscription for $61,000. We didn't even bat an eye. PGA Tour suite enhancements, $145,000. We didn't bat an eye. Florida Black Excellence sponsorship, $100,000. We didn't bat an eye. You're looking at $306,000 like that. We're talking about $30,000 for over 10 years for our partner, which we have a lease agreement for 100 years of worth. We're disrupting their business. The fact that we're spending 20 minutes on this conversation is beyond me, but the point of the matter is very simple. This is our partner, all right? We have an obligation with them, and we're disrupting their business. So let's just move on from this and go through the agenda. So thank you.
Councilmember Freeman has asked for one last comment.
30 seconds. And thank you, Councilman Arias, for that statement. And I just want to make sure that I'm clear in what I'm saying is that this is not an attempt on me to try to take away from the work that they're doing. This is more of a questioning of the dollar amount that we got to, how did we get to it? To my council member's point here, those other groups, when they came, they laid out a plan of here's why we need this amount of money. Here's what we're going to do with it. Here are the people in the community that we're going to serve with these dollars. The number that we got here was an abstract number because we wanted to get something back and we ended up getting the video. So I just wanted to put on the record where I am with it's not the challenging of giving money to a nonprofit. It was more of a challenging of how did we determine that number and the length of that we're paying it. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for doing that.
Okay, we're going to take a hand vote. All those in favor of the Diamond amendment to the amendment, please raise your hand. I got 1, 2, 3. All those opposed, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The amendment fails. Okay, now we're going back to the original amendment, which was the Neighborhoods Amendment. All those in favor of the Neighborhoods Amendment, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Amendment passes. Okay. Okay, we have a no on the Boylan Amendment. Pardon me? I did. I think I did. Yeah, Councilmember Diamond voted no. Okay. Okay. So can we get the? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we voted on the Boylan Amendment. Okay, and now the bill's been moved as amended. No one else in the queue, please open the ballot, record the vote. Before we vote? I just want a confirmation on one thing that I mentioned. Okay, let's hold the vote, please. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Through the chair to Guy, can we get a commitment that the video production and the work could be used for all of downtown, including east side components, or not just DIA boundaries?
Through the chair, we will provide to City Council during the annual appropriation a scope of services with a geographic boundary. So yes, you will have review of that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, let's open the ballot and record the vote.
Seven yeas, one nay.
By your vote, you've approved 25-256. Okay, moving on to item 14, 25-259. I have a motion and second on the, wait a minute, we got, on the bill, we have an amendment. Would you explain the amendment, Mr. Peterson?
Yes, sir. Through the chair of the committee, the amendment just would include a directive for the Chief of Legislative Services to forward a copy of this resolution onto the Governor's Office, the Department of Government Efficiency team, based upon its adoption, so that they're aware of the request from the City of Jacksonville.
Okay, all those in favor of the amendment, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Amendment passes. Okay, well, I have a nay from Ms. Pittman on the amendment.
Thank you, Chair. I also had an amendment I wanted to bring up for discussion.
Okay.
And remind me, should I explain what my amendment would be and then ask for a second?
Please, wait a minute. Just make sure that Councilmember Pittman voted no on the original, on the First Amendment.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Through the committee, my amendment's pretty simple. It's changing the word audit to review. And I live in an audit, finance, and accounting world. And really my motivation for this is, one, in the Executive Order 2544, the word audit doesn't appear anywhere. And so my understanding, it's going to be a review by this group in the exact language, using publicly available information to identify and report unnecessary spending. It does not do anything for Florida Statute Section 218.39, which governs our annual audit requirements. So again, that's simply it, changing it from audit to review. Just a quick wording change to make it clear that this doesn't change our annual audit requirement.
Okay. Okay. I've got some speakers on the Laney amendment. Councilmember Diamond? Okay. Councilmember Freeman? Add me as a co-sponsor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I will support the amendment. One, I think it's going to scratch an itch that was brought up in rules yesterday about, we have to trust our auditors, and as I shared in that group, when I am dealing with legislation that I think is going to be really impactful and elicit a lot of debate and conversation, I always check with the auditors. I check with OGC, obviously, and I also check with ethics. So that seems like something that I'd be amenable to, if that gets you to a posture where you're willing to move forward in supporting the bill. So thank you, or the resolution.
Councilmember Howland.
Just wanted to go on record saying I support Councilman Lanon's amendment. That's it. Thank you.
All those in favor? I'm sorry, you want to speak again?
Thank you, Chair. Mary came over to me, and the other part of this was it drops in the exact language from Executive Order 2544, which will say the City of Jacksonville, Duval County's budget and expenditures using publicly available information to identify and report unnecessary spending on page 2, line 11. And again, that's just taking the exact language from the Executive Order and beefing up that one last statement that's in the resolution. Mary just wanted me to articulate that that's the other change that my amendment would do.
Councilmember Arias. Okay. Did you hear all those? Okay. So all those in favor of the Laney amendment, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Okay. Okay. Can we roll those up into one amendment, please? So I have a motion and a second on the bill as amended. Please open the ballot, record the vote.
Seven yeas, one nay.
By your vote, you've approved 2025-259. Moving on to item 15, 25-261. I have a motion and a second on the amendment. Mr. Peterson?
Yes, sir. Through the chair to the committee, the amendment would also include the additional incentives that were provided to this developer. They actually weren't paid out, but the whereas clauses listed the incentives that were part of the original agreement, so we're including the last incentive of a milestone grant of $1.5 million.
All those in favor of the amendment, please indicate by saying aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Amendment passes. I have a motion and a second on the bill as amended. Mr. Lanen.
Thank you, through the chair, Mr. Peterson. Can you just repeat the last part? You're saying this does include the last payment on that? I may have misunderstood you there. Sorry.
Apologize. Through the chair to Councilmember Lanen. So the agreement that was approved in 1999 laid out multiple incentives for the developer related to phase 1 and phase 2. And then also there was an additional grant that once they spent so much money, we would give them additional dollars. And the whereas clauses in the bill laid out the phase 1 and phase 2, but it didn't lay out that milestone spending incentive. So just to have an accurate record of all the incentives that were afforded to the developer, not that they took advantage of, we're including that in the whereas clauses.
So through the chair to Mr. Peterson, no cash is leaving us by this vote.
No, sir, not at all.
Okay. Open the ballot, record the vote.
Seven yeas, one nay.
By your vote, you've approved 25-261. Okay. Item 16 is a second reading, as is 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and 26, and 27, as well as 29 and 30. Item number 28, I am deferring. I am introducing an ordinance a week from Wednesday, filing it, that will be a ordinance for a purchase of that property. It will, Council President White has agreed to put that bill as well as the swap bill in the committee of the whole, which is what I've always wanted, where we can, as a council, have a full debate on swap versus purchase. That will allow it, and we can vote on the respective bill that we prefer. So that's why I'm deferring this bill. Police, Councilmember Howland.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's an unfortunate decision for me because I will not be here. You'll see my excusal for May 20. I'm briefing the VA on Northeast Florida's veteran suicide results for the 2023 year in Austin, Texas. So I believe it's the May 20 date that you're doing this committee of the whole now with Gateway RDA and the purchase swap. May 21st, yeah, so it's the 21st that I won't be here. I just have some thoughts on that. What I think Gateway really wants is those two parcels on the waterfront so they can develop a world-class, hotel right there in the park. I think what the city wants, that is to say the 19 of us who are elected to represent the city, is to have a world-class development right there in the park on the riverfront, but also to achieve maximum values for those parcels of land. So I think what we all want, all parties, is kind of a rigorous discussion of the the UF graduate campus and the Semiconductor Institute, just so we can determine how much we're going to invest there and what the right agreement is for the city. 801 Bay Street seems to be the determining factor here, and I really personally don't want the conveyance of 801 Bay Street when the city acquires it to UF to be a detriment to the UF discussion, because I think you don't do committees as a whole for everything. You do committees as a whole for things that are serious that matter to the city, and that's UF, and last year that was stadium. Nonetheless, I think that's the position that we've kind of been boxed into now by the timeline. I don't think personally the swap deal gets everyone what they want. I still believe there's more information to be had for the swap deal. And I'm not sure the purchase deal alone gets everyone what they need. So I'd like for DIA to consider, and if I'm not in that committee of the whole, for all of us to consider something that might get the deal done quickly, be simpler, and satisfy everybody, and that would be potentially a purchase of the land, and in return for Gateway's great partnership for allowing us to purchase that land and convey it to UF and all their other developments in the city, potentially a right of first refusal for any subsequent RFP that's done on those riverfront properties. I think that could be something that might be able to be done in that committee. and that could quickly acquire the land, convey it, and let us move on with the discussion of UF in a rigorous way that we need to. So that's something I've been thinking about. I've been talking with a lot of folks in the community about. I think it could be quick, easy, painless, and efficient, and might get the ball into the end zone here. Thanks.
Personally, I'm not sure what a right of first refusal would mean. I've always advocated for an RFP on that property. And so that anyone could bid on that property with their proposal. I think that's the fair way to do it. I think the RFP that was a part of this 30-day process where they had to also provide space for the school in La Villa was not the way to do. That's not a true RFP. So if you're suggesting if the RFPs are equal in some way and they would have an advantage there, I'm not sure what that means, but I guess that will be something we can discuss at the Committee of the Whole.
And for clarity, thank you, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind. What I would entail is your purchase agreement with an RFP, with a right of first refusal on a subsequent RFP with the time-defined deadline for one or both of those two riverfront parcels. So when DIA does an RFP, which I would hope also in the agreement, City Council would have a right to review that RFP, that Gateway would have, and there's value in a right of first refusal on whatever offers come into DIA for one or both of those parcels at the riverfront. And that is part of the purchase agreement, allows the purchase agreement to get done, and allows us to move on and discuss UF.
Okay. We're getting into this than I anticipated, but you're not going to be there. Well, you're not going to be there, so I respect that, and we've got time. So, Councilmember Freeman. Well, let me go to Ms. Stefopoulos.
Thank you. Through the chair, just to address a couple of the comments, and Ms. Boyer obviously is the subject matter expert on this. So one thing I just want everybody to be mindful of is the statutes dictate how CRA property can be disposed of. That's that notice of disposition process that they undertook with respect to all of these parcels, and that included the interline property. So with respect to an RFP versus that process has to follow what the statute allows. So I would defer to Ms. Boyer as to whether or not a different type of process, such as what you're suggesting, or if a right of first refusal would require they go back out and do another notice of disposition, is something that would be authorized under the statute. But with respect to how we can deal with acquisition, disposition of CRA properties, we are limited because of the statutory framework that they have to operate within.
Councilmember Freeman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All I was going to ask is that through the chair to Councilmember Howland, love your thought, love when you bring a different perspective to it. Would you have an issue maybe of sending a one-way communication prior to leaving with all of your thoughts on it and kind of lay it out, so then we don't have to assume, and we can kind of bring your concerns to the table as well and then debate that. Thank you.
Councilmember Pittman.
Chair, I also like the idea or option, I should say, what you presented to us. And I'm sorry that you're not going to be here. But I think it will help us because for me, going back and forth, but being able to do the deal quicker than anticipated, because I think it's a win-win, not only for the city, but for UF and for the community. So, it doesn't tie our hands to just one or two, but perhaps three that will help us decide as a council and how it will benefit us as a whole. So please do send that one-way communication. So when we do have that meeting, we have that option to say yes or no. And Lori as well, to give us what the parameters are, or that we're able to do it, or if not, or from OGC. Thank you.
I'd like to make one last comment, because I share your Councilmember Howland's concern about the University of Florida and this whole process. If you recall, we passed an ordinance allowing up to $8 million to purchase that property. This whole process could have ended if they would have agreed to that. Yeah. Some price, and we would be done. They are pushing the land swap. That's what they want. So It's not that the council did not offer them a true option to get that property. And I just want to make sure that's on the record. Okay, no one else in the queue. We are adjourned.
You got one.
No one else is there. It wasn't there when I said it.
My apologies, Chair. I thought we were still talking about UF, so I wanted to wait there. Just two quick things. At TEU today, the Solid Waste Department is coming to give a presentation on all non-residential trash fees. Just like we talked about residential recently, there's a lot of fees out there that I think I was still in the Navy the last time they were looked at. Also, I was wondering maybe perhaps in the next couple committee meetings we could get another Emerald Trail update. There was some news last week that there's concern on that federal grant, and I just want to make sure that we're not getting ahead of ourselves and inadvertently switching to city money instead of using what the original budget was based on having the grant. So that was just something I saw that may be worth us getting an update here, given the magnitude of that project.
I did not hear the grant that you referred to. I'm sorry.
Through the chair and to the committee, there was an article, but it was the CEO of JTA said there was concern about getting that full grant now.
You're talking about for the Emerald Trail?
Yes, sir.
147. I'd like to hear from JTA. If we can put that on the agenda at the beginning of the meeting, that would be great. Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Lanin. I have no one else in the queue. I'm looking around. We are adjourned.